into Retirement, an unusual podcast about finding purpose, meaning, and balance after a busy working life, with David Ailing Smith and Peter Taylor. Exploring the emotional, psychological, and practical realities of modern retirement through a series of reflective conversations undertaken whilst walking scenic routes across the UK.
Hi, Daz.
Hello, Peter. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. I'm doing good. As you know, in my personal life, I'm dedicated to house hunting at the moment, which is exciting and tiring thing as well. So that's keeping me busy.
Well, and stressful. So, not having a job, house hunting, two of the three. How are you and Mrs. Taylor? You okay?
Oh yeah, no, that's going okay. I think no divorce on the horizon, if that's what you're intimating in your cruel way.
Oh, that's great. And how's adolescence going for you, Peter? Because we had a very interesting chat, I thought, in Oxford, and where the reality of not working at the moment struck you pretty hard. And have you been okay?
Yes, it did actually, and I want to reflect on something that was one of our contributors mentioned or shared with us recently, because it's a sobering thought. But you know what, I'm kind of ignoring it at the moment. Is the way I'm going about this. There's enough going on that's keeping me busy, so I'm not dwelling now. I think that was a wonderful therapeutic walk with you, and
Yes.
a fine lunch afterwards. And of course, I'm looking forward to the future walks that we have. But may I reflect on something that our friend Sally McQueen sent through to both of us?
Yeah.
Okay. Sally was sharing something that a lady called Arlene Dickinson had posted, so there's full reference there. But it did come back to a key point, and I'm paraphrasing what Arlene posted, but retiring at 65 traces back to 19th century Prussia, and it came from a political calculation, not a human one. The number was deliberately set above the age when most people were expected to live, so that pensions wouldn't have to be paid at scale. That was the whole point. Set retirement age past life expectancy, save government money. And when other nations built their pension systems, many just simply borrowed that number. The result, hundreds of thousands of people are expected to leave the workforce every year, not because they're done, because of some false number. And the argument is that we should be able to retire both when and if we want to. And the number 65, although 65 is not the number anymore, we've upped it a little bit, is a borrowed relic from a country that no longer exists for a world that no longer exists. It's time the number 65 got retired. And I thought that was lovely.
Yeah, well, I think it's one of the things we're exploring, really, is it that the sort of the sort of unpreparedness of so many of us for this era, when we've got our energy, hopefully our strength, hopefully our health, and we've got years in front of us. And so, how do you spend that time when you're not earning money? I think that's why we're doing what we're doing, Peter. So that was a very interesting insight, wasn't it, that Sally forwarded?
It was indeed.
I'm liking the fact that you're ignoring this conundrum. That's the way you dealt with our relationship over work over all the years. When you just
It seems to have worked. It seems to have worked. I think I've mostly ignored everything you told me, and it's gone well.
I also like the fact that you've said what a couple of people have said, that this is, and we've got I'm really looking forward to our podcast today, because we've got a friend of ours from the past going to be talking about her retirement. But you said something there which a couple of people have said, which is about therapy. About this is very cheap therapy doing this podcast. So
absolutely.
So we must ask Jill, our guest, that actually. So welcome, Jill. Jill, welcome to the Walking into Retirement podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, both of you.
Oh, it's so nice to hear your voice. And we chatted a couple of weeks ago, Jill, and you and I have worked together, I think, in 2 incarnations in our working life. And it was so nice to hear your voice again. And you've got more northern since I spoke to you last, Jill.
If that's more northern than you, anyway.
Well, that's true. It's not hard, that, is it? But no, I think it's funny, isn't it? We spend our working lives around people, and I think our voices morph, don't they, into that sort of mid-Atlantic median voice. And yet when we go back to our roots or go back to our homes, our voices adjust to the people we're around. I certainly noticed that with you, which was lovely.
Yeah, no, that's so true. That's so true.
So Jill, recently retired. I mean, maybe perhaps just to kick this off, perhaps introduce yourself to us and our listeners. Recently retired, and just to sort of, while you're thinking about that, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you was I've really enjoyed your LinkedIn posts since you left work. As I say, we worked together a lot. You've had a very intense job all the times we've worked together, and yet your posts had a reflective sort of lightness about them, which really struck me. It was a different voice from the voice which I so appreciated when we worked together. And so I wanted to ask you about that. So, but over to you, Jill. So do you want to just introduce yourself and perhaps give a little bit of context to what you used to do, and then on to how you're feeling about retirement or elderescence as we describe it on this podcast?
Yeah, no, sure. So let me actually this is actually I'm 2 months into my actual retirement now, so I'm
Okay.
actually left or closed the laptop on April the 17th. So I'm literally 2 months down the line, and I retired just before my 59th birthday, so it's an early retirement. And I kind of left my career. I'd call it a mid leadership level role. So I left at a senior director role in a large software corporation. And the reason why I want to start there is because I'd like to just reflect a little bit on how I got there,
Yeah.
if that's
Yeah,
okay.
sure.
Please.
Yeah. So my career started actually in finance. So I went to university, but I didn't stick it out. So I
Mhm.
got a job in a very small family-run accountancy company back in my hometown. And that's where my career started. So it started in finance, and that was really the start of me being kind of very planning oriented.
Mhm.
And I think that I took that throughout my whole career, where I was always planning, because that's what we did in finance. It revolved around budgeting, forecasting, month ends, quarter ends, year ends, so I was always in that planning. And I moved in out of finance into a consulting role. And then I moved into kind of an operational services operational role. I moved into software in 2000, so I'd been in that nearly 30 years. And then I eventually ended up in a resource management, workforce planning type role, leading that across several countries, and also then latterly also looking after a team of, about 100 consultants. So my role evolved throughout my career, but I come from a very humble background.
Mm.
My mum and dad, I'm gonna this is what I've been reflecting on since I retired, but I've gone back a few generations in my family,
Mhm.
and for generations, my family have been born, they've been baptised, they've been married, and they've been buried in the same church in Cheshire.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. And they didn't leave their place. And then my mum and dad, my dad used to work as a labourer on farms, and my mum, she was one of 12 children, and she went to work at an early age, probably about 14, I think, in a castle not far from where she lived. If you think about upstairs, downstairs, more
Yes.
more widely, Downton Abbey. My mum worked downstairs basically, as a lady's maid. So they had a very humble background. And then when they got married, I think I was one, my mum and dad decided to move into the town, and it was all about opportunity for the children.
Yes.
So that's what they did, and they took that opportunity, and you know that's where I kind of got the bug then. Well, I'm going to take that opportunity, and I'm going to see where things go, because I didn't know about large corporate software
Mm.
businesses. I didn't know what opportunities were out there, but I decided to move away from my local town. And but then I just let the path kind of take me to wherever it took me.
That's a lovely story. Thank you for sharing that, Jill. I'm loving the fact that both you and your mum are in services. That's,
Different kind of services.
Very good, Daz.
And
Very
I
good.
didn't wear an apron.
oh, that's so good. And I mean, thank you. That context is so interesting, isn't it? So, I mean, you had very senior roles, had a lot of responsibility. You were absolutely in the engine room of both organizations when I've worked with you in the past. And so you've invented yourself as this corporate person, and now you've stopped. And so I was teasing you earlier about your accent getting slightly thicker since then. So are you finding that place and home has become a bigger thing for you? You did say to me a lovely phrase when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, that you'd felt lighter somehow after you finished work. And I'm fascinated by that phrase and the fact you've explained to us where you've come from. Do you feel you're going back to your roots with this moving away from the corporate world? What does that feel like, Jill?
Yeah, just to reflect on the fact that you said I was feeling lighter, and absolutely, that's what I've taken away from the last couple of months is I feel free, and it's amazing. I didn't know what I was walking into when I walked into a retirement, and I'll come back to the fact that the planning is important because that helped me walk into retirement, I think. But I didn't know what to expect as I took that decision, but I just feel so much lighter, and I really haven't looked back in 2 months.
Well, as you know, Jill, we've been exploring different people's experiences, and I think your experience is one of someone that's just, you've had a very successful career, and interesting. You're saying you were planning oriented, but you didn't know what to expect from this time of your life. But you sound happy. You sound, as you said, lighter, and perhaps looking forward to whatever the universe brings to your door, which is lovely. And it's so different because presumably you got to the position you got to through hard work, ability, of course, but ambition as well. So
Well, that's an interesting point. I think we talked about as well, Daz, was the word ambition. So I took the opportunity from the last time that we looked, because I've heard Peter likes to do a bit of researching as well.
Not much, Jill, but thank you for
Yeah, I'm quite shallow, but enough to sound intelligent.
But yeah, I wanted to just take the opportunity to kind of look at, what the word ambition really means, and was I ambitious or was I not ambitious? So the dictionary definition is a strong desire or determination to achieve success, power, wealth, or a specific goal. And I still stand by the fact that I don't think I was ambitious. What I was wanting to do was kind of work hard, better myself, which might be power, wealth, or success. But I wasn't always striving for a title. I wasn't striving for more money. That all kind of came naturally, if that makes sense.
It's such an interesting scenario, this, because if I could divert for 1 minute, over the years I've had lots of reviews with people. Money features heavily, of course, in the industry that we've all come from, and lots of people over the years have said to me, Daz, I thought if I worked hard and I did well, promotion and money would come. And this would often be off the back of someone perhaps not getting a promotion they wanted, or not being in the position they wanted to be in. And you've just said the opposite, which is so lovely, because you always did approach work you worked so hard, you were so well respected, but you were humble as well. You didn't come with any entitlement, any sense of privilege or right. And I'm pleased, I think, for you that actually success came your way through your efforts. That sounds like what you're saying, that it happened because of what you did, not what you planned.
That's that, because I didn't, although I lived in a planning oriented world most of my career, I never planned my own career. I never even thought the minute I started working, I didn't think of it being a career. So it all just naturally happened through hard work and looking for opportunity. So in my early career, I didn't stand still. I probably, as Simon, my other half, always says, I probably chased the coin a little bit in my early years.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and maybe you had some good bosses through that time, Jill.
well,
Oh, come on,
yes, and
Dad.
opportunity. You know, there were opportunities that come along. When I first went into resource management, I'd never done that before, but I was in a business partner operations role, and I talked to my boss at the time, and I just said, "Is there something more? Is there something different that I could do?" Because I'd been doing that role and, it probably wasn't giving me personally what I needed. But when you're in a company that you enjoy being in, it's what are the opportunities that you can potentially have. And I think that's what when I kind of was writing some of the posts on LinkedIn, part of that was being reflective about what I'd done through my career and my observations. And that was one of them. I had some good people that I worked with that gave me opportunities to progress or to widen the skill set that I had.
And
So,
I
Jill,
mean,
I'm going to interject here because I mean, I'm going to ignore Dad's angling for a compliment for being a nice boss, which that was just blatant, Daz. That really was. Now,
sorry.
so one of the things that we've heard as a common theme for people, which it feels like you've bypassed this, and maybe your LinkedIn postings help this, is a lot of people when they're going through this process, they feel their world is getting smaller in some way. I mean, I know I talked to my own father about this one, about he suddenly felt that his world was much smaller once he retired. And that was something he had to go through and come to terms with. It seems like maybe that isn't an issue for you. You've bypassed that, or maybe your postings are a way of finishing off the work world and entering this lighter world that you're in. I don't know. Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, so interestingly, one of the things that I didn't say earlier was that although I physically closed my laptop in April this year, I actually made the decision that I was going to retire back in summer last year.
Wow.
And I actually chose that I would do that in the spring of 2026 because one, we're looking forward to hopefully longer days, some sunshine, maybe. I forgot it was even the World Cup, so even better. But so I'd actually mentally, I made the decision some months earlier that it was time for me to retire. So I had those months to come to terms with that. And I think the LinkedIn posts, I use those as taking some time to reflect on what I'd done. And I think I mentioned to Daz when we spoke as well a couple of weeks ago, you know, when I finished work as well, I did the physical. I actually got all my notebooks and I've shredded them. So I kind of mentally prepared for this, although I didn't prepare for what was coming afterwards, but I mentally prepared for the moment. The other thing I'd kind of pick up on as well is I was involved for many years, like all of us were, with so many people. And, that's one of the things that I do miss about work
Yeah.
is the close connections that you build with people.
Yeah.
However, from a personal perspective, I'm actually quite a private person.
Mm.
I'm very happy in my own company. And I don't have this need to have, I don't have a big social circle. So actually my circle isn't getting probably any smaller personally,
Right.
but it has done in terms of those connections at work. But I know those meaningful connections will continue. So in a way, they will widen my social circle,
And you've got
Yeah.
more time as a result of
and I've got more time. Yeah,
where you are now to put into those strong relationships you've had for many years. So yeah.
I
yeah.
love it.
So it's kind of, for me, it feels like it's just been again a natural transition.
I love the burning of the notebooks story, Jill, because that's a classic sort of counseling, therapy, coaching technique, isn't it, to help move on from events that are holding you back or that have caused you issues, literally throwing them away or writing a concern on a piece of paper and then tearing it up. So that felt like a sort of manifestation of a sort of an ending. And just thinking and listening to you talk, one of the things, and I don't want this to be like an annual review again, Jill, one of the things you always brought to your work was your authenticity. And I'm sure that was one of the reasons you've been so successful in your working life. But I'm intrigued what that means for retirement for you. So what does the authentic Jill look like in retirement? What does that allow for? I mean, you obviously have a family and a close-knit set of friends that are very geographically bounded. And I know you've got two well-loved dogs. You live in a community. So what does authenticity in retirement mean for you? What are you perhaps looking forward to doing more of? And I appreciate the answer, maybe you don't know yet, but this podcast is about exploring people's emotional reaction to retirement. And you've had a great one. And I'm just wondering what the authentic Jill is going to do with the years in front of her.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting because if you speak to people that know me quite closely, outside it, within work and outside of work, I don't think anybody expected me to be sat here 2 months down the line and have not mentioned work. So I think it surprised other people. It's probably surprised me, but I haven't thought about that. And what I have reflected on though as well is that I think retirement is going to allow me to be who I really am. And who I really am is actually quite a quiet person that's easily contented in life. I've not got big desire. I haven't got a bucket list. I don't have big desires to get on a cruise and travel the world. I'm basically going to take each day as it comes, and I have a I have an active brain that wants to be curious about different things. So, what's happened immediately is I've put my DIY skills to the test. So I've been doing a bit of pointing on my wall. I've not done it before. Is it great? No. Is it okay? Yes. So that's what I'm just going to be, it's going to be quite simple things to begin with. I've because of time again, I'm really listening to a lot of podcasts on different things. So I want to keep my brain active. And also I've spent a lot of time in the garden as well, just because I can. I seem to have brought some plants back to life, which is nice.
But you mentioned to me when we first spoke that the sort of the pain in your neck went. You
It
said
did.
you were carrying some physical manifestations of the pressure under. And just listening to you talk about who you are as a person, your job was a very stressful job. It was very operationally intense. You had every day you had quite difficult calls to make. You had people demanding things of you that weren't within your ability to provide many cases. And so I can only imagine the pressure that was over time. And it's interesting, isn't it, that as you stop that and you sound very content, that pressure has gone and you feel lighter, the pain in your neck's gone, you're in the garden with the dogs, listening to podcasts, reading more. It sounds absolutely idyllic, Jill.
It does.
Well,
It's very encouraging, actually. We've explored some of the more challenging parts, but this is a nice story.
It is.
yeah, I mean, whether it'll change when I'm after 4 months, I don't know. I think that's probably the one thing that it's not concerning me because I'll deal with it. But I wonder what the dark nights and the rain will bring. How will I have to morph into retirement then, and what will I do in that situation? And don't get me wrong, I'm using the opportunity to go to the gym, have a swim, which can continue into those kind of winter months. But it's kind of
Get the pointing
looking at
finished, Jill. Get the
things.
pointing finished before then.
Yeah, it's just looking at what else you can do in those dark nights, isn't it?
But I'm loving the fact that you don't have a master plan here. You don't have any huge ambition to go and travel or start a company or to do anything in inverted commas worthy. It's so lovely to hear this, Jill, because it feels like this is probably how it is for lots of people. They finish work and they're a bit tired and they're really pleased to be able to do normal, gentle, simple, straightforward, everyday, in the moment things and get pleasure from it. And of course, all the things you've talked about there, the gardening and being with your friends, that doesn't cost money, does it? It's just being. It's just being.
It's just that's it. It's just being, and it's actually being comfortable with that. And that's the other thing I've reflected on is, for me, it's enough.
Wow. I
You
mean,
know,
it's a story of contentment and comfort. And dads will appreciate this, Jill, very much, because you've had to deal with me over the last few weeks, and I'm nowhere near where you are, and I know I'm challenging.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Yeah, but you know what, Peter? I think 5 years ago I was in a situation where I was made redundant before I went to work where we all just
Right.
worked. And I you have a little bit of money put in your pocket because of redundancy. I was sat there and I was like, okay, I'll just chill out for a few months and figure out what I want to do. Within a week, I was on looking for a job, frantically looking for a job, thinking I need to work. I can't. This is, and it wasn't so much the monetary. It was just I was just couldn't.
You
I
weren't
couldn't
ready.
not think of not working at that point in time.
No.
5 years down the line, and it's completely different.
Yeah.
There you go,
It's your
Dad.
time.
5 years and I'll be okay.
Well,
I guess it's a mental transition.
yeah,
I don't
we've
know.
said this so many times. Everybody is different, and this feels like it's your time. This was right. You planned your leaving. You left on good terms. I know that to be true. You left feeling appreciated. You left with new friends, and your time to stop that corporate world had come, and you're happy with that choice. It's a lovely story, Jill. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing it with us.
Yeah, no, thank you.
No.
It's been fantastic, and I think it's going to be very, very encouraging for our listeners.
And
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure, and it's kind of, you know, I'd just like to sort of say spent most of my life becoming who I am, and retirement has given me the opportunity and the time to enjoy that. So
Well,
Beautiful.
we look forward to hearing more about it in due course, Jill, and enjoy those sunny days during the World Cup with Simon.
well, hopefully they'll continue to play well, and we'll have something to cheer for a few
I'm
more
sure
weeks.
we will. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jill. It's
All
been
right.
lovely to catch up, and thank you for telling us your story.
Thank
Oh,
you.
no problem. Thanks so much.
You have been listening to Walking into Retirement, an unusual podcast about finding purpose, meaning and balance after a busy working life with David Ailing Smith and Peter Taylor. Find out more at www.walkingintoretirement.com, and why not share your own retirement stories with the hosts?